And there's a little sermon in here, and give me about 15 seconds and I'll preach it to you. And it's this. Sometimes we do the same cotton-picking excuse to God. God calls us into ministry and we say, God, you can't, I can't do that, Lord. I mean, you know I can't serve in the church. And God says, what's in your hand? And we say, God, I don't have any talents. I can't do it. What's in your hand? Just an old stick, Lord. I mean, there's nothing you can do with that. Give it to me. Each of us has something. Most of us we're not superstars. Moses wasn't a superstar. But each of us has a gift, a talent. We have something that might not look much to us. It may look like an old stick. But if we will give it to the Lord, He will fill it with life like we could never believe. And He will use that, and He'll use us to do things we never thought we could do. So what's in your hand that you're not giving to the Lord? I'll let you answer that yourself. All right. Moses wasn't convinced then, was he? He still had another card he wanted to show. So in chapter 4, verse 10, and here's the one that really perplexes me. Moses said to the Lord, Lord, I have never been eloquent, neither in the past nor since you have spoken to your servant. I am slow of speech and tongue. I can't speak really well.
He was so powerful.
You remember I said, remember this verse? Somebody's lying. Moses says, Lord, I can't speak. In the book of Acts, it says Moses was powerful in speech. Somebody was lying, and I have a feeling I know who it was. It wasn't God. Moses was pulling another excuse out of his black bag, trying his best to say to God, please, God, really don't want to do this. Well, let me show you one more verse. Now Moses reveals all of his cards. He's naked before the Lord. Look at chapter 4, verse 13. Moses said, oh, Lord, please just send someone else to do it. And that was the intent of all of his excuses to start with. He was just making up excuses, hoping the Lord would say, okay, you don't have to do this. I'll choose someone else. So now Moses knew he had a calling upon his life that he could not escape. He was God's man for the hour to do something big in and among his people in the development of this plan for all peoples in the world. Wow, what a guy. Now, this brings us then, of course, the next time we see Moses, he walks into Pharaoh's court, right up before Pharaoh, Amenhotep, or whoever he was. Let my people go. And Pharaoh said, okay. No, I don't think so. Moses butted heads with a hard-hearted Pharaoh who was not at all about to let the people go. Let me ask you a question. I used to wonder this myself. Have you ever wondered why? Why did it take God 10 punches to knock out Pharaoh, if I can use that analogy? Why did it take 10 plagues? Why didn't Moses just go in there, let my people go? Pharaoh says no. God zaps him and lets the people go.
Well, I didn't know why he hardened his heart.
Okay.
He was trying to teach him to go to God.
All right. So, in other words, there's a process going on here more than just delivering the people, but through the process, there's a revelation taking place. Let me show you something. I've got 9 verses that I want you to read, popcorn. If you would be willing to read a verse, would you please raise your hand? I don't want to call on anybody who would not feel comfortable reading a verse. I made that vow to you. Okay, remember the verse. Okay, Roger, would you, Exodus chapter 6, verse 7. Okay, who else will read a verse? Okay, Sean. Chapter 7, verse 5. Margie, chapter 7, verse 17. And who else? Okay, Pauline, chapter 8, verse 10. Over here, who would be willing to read a verse? Keith, chapter 8, verse 22. Who else? Larry, chapter 9, verse 14. Who else will read a verse for me? Okay, chapter 10, verse 2. I need 2 more. Who will do another one for me? Greg, chapter 14, verse 4. I tell you what, we'll stop right there. I want to read these in the order that I gave them. And And this, of course, is peppered throughout the story of all of these 10 plagues. But I want you to listen to a phrase that's said over and over and over again in each of these verses. And this gives us the key to what God wanted to teach them through this process. All right?